Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of Page 10. We are recording on the 26th of June 2023. My name is Abbas. I'm your host for the show. Joining me is my regular panelist Meghnad from Delhi. Hi Meghnad.
Hello, Abbas. Welcome back.
And joining us is a first time guest on this show. He's a YouTuber, a rationalist. He has a YouTube channel that talks a lot about atheism and rational thinking. He's a social media personality, if I can put it that way. Please welcome to the show, Vimoh.
Hi.
So, in case you're joining us for the first time on page 10, this is a current affairs show where each panelist brings a piece of news that happened in the last week. We give a little explainer and then we open it up and have a healthy discussion about it. And that's what the show is. This is the All About Now podcast feed and YouTube channel. So, on this episode, we will talk about Modi ji's very auspicious and very impactful US trip. We'll talk about what's happening in Russia. There's a lot of development there happening. And Vimoh will tell us why the Karnataka Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has been called a borderline atheist. Alright, so without further ado, as you can see, it's going to be a packed episode. Let's get to the first topic of the week, which is by Meghnad. So Meghnad, take it away.
I'm covering the, as you said, auspicious Narendra Modi US visit. This is his
Yes.
fifth visit during his 9-year term. He likes America a lot, clearly. So the recent state visit was quite important, I would say, than compared to the others. Um, this was actually the first time like he was doing a state visit. He was
Yeah.
invited to the White House and they hosted a gigantic dinner where a bunch of people came, including Mukesh Bhai and other people, important people, and they Prime Minister Modi also addressed the U.S. Congress uh, and gave a speech. So a lot of things have been happening around it in our perspective, right? Which is, of course, the drama, the uncles
Yeah.
dancing, the basically the show. It was a big
Yeah.
show. Menu
Yeah.
में क्या था, क्या पहना था, teleprompter लगाया था or not. One more thing that people have been talking about is that in his 9-year tenure, this is the first time he has answered a press conference question.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is what I am not going to talk about that. I
Okay.
am going to talk about what actually happened at the visit. Like, what is the purpose of it? What were the deals signed that were behind it? And what does it mean for things like the Russia war and also China? So, quickly, I'm just going to run through the agreements first, right? The agreements. Okay, so first one is related to Predator drones. You guys know what Predator drones are, right?
Yes.
The
Mm-hmm.
US Predator drones. So General Electric and Hindustan Aeronautical Limited, they have announced that they have signed a big ticket MOU for co-production of India's GE 414 jet engines, which goes into the Tejas aircraft, and the sale of 31 US made armed Predator drones. 31 drones, right? So this deal is said to be around $3 billion, whatever. I'll come to that later, right? Then defense ministries of two countries, which is ours, have also launched the inaugural session of the innovation platform Indus X. It is supposed to be like a deeper collaboration between the military industrial complex of both countries, if you want to
Okay.
put it in a simple way. So it's like a forum where both, like private players of all defense companies and public players come together and basically do deals. That's it. That's what it seems like it is. Then there is other non-defense related things that have also been done. One is, that there is a semiconductor shortage happening around the world. So India has signed a deal with a chip maker Micron Technology. And they have said that they will invest around $825 million in a new chip assembly and test facility in Gujarat. So this is said to be like an overall investment of 2.7 billion. They have pledged right now 825 million out of that. Then there is another related development. There is a lamb research organization. which is also a semiconductor manufacturing company. Actually, they are going to do a training program to train 60,000 Indian engineers on how to make semiconductors.
Okay.
So both of these are very, very crucial deals, and I really
Mm-hmm.
hope that uh, they go forward, because very important. Then space cooperation. So India
Mm-hmm.
and US are going to do a manned mission to the International Space Station in 2024. That is
Okay.
a big deal. And also, like, there are India is now a part of this 25 country consortium for space exploration and cooperation. So there will be closer ties with other countries and doing more space programs. So there is news for our friendly NRIs who are going to the US and have visa problems.
Right.
Every time any Indian person goes to US from the government, visa का क्या हो रहा है is the big question. So यहाँ पे
Mm.
थोड़ा सा development हुआ है. So visa lockdowns, post pandemic visa lockdowns are almost over
Okay.
now. The US has announced a pilot program to renew visas domestically. So earlier, people had to come back to India, renew it, and then go back
Mm-hmm.
to the US. But now they are trying to figure out how to do it domestically. I'm also not sure why they didn't do this before. It just sounds very ridiculous, but
Mm-hmm.
jo bhi hai. Then they are also going to expand this to H1B and L scaled visas by 2024. So visa problems will get pretty much
Lesser.
sorted, lesser,
Mm.
not
Mm.
sorted. They're also going to open two new consulate generals in Bangalore and Ahmedabad. And India is going to reopen its consulate in Seattle.
Okay.
That's the overall agreement part of things of what happened, right?
Hmm.
There are certain things on Indo-Pacific region and international affairs which we'll get into.
Okay.
Initial reactions on this.
So both US and India are a year away from their elections, right?
Yeah.
So let's say hypothetically both the governments change next year. Okay, here
Hmm.
the BJP government is voted out. There the Democrats lose the house. So then what happens to these deals? Do they still go on regardless of whoever's in power?
This is actually related to something I was going to talk about, which is the Predator drones. Right. So
Okay.
the Predator drone deal has been going on since 2017.
Okay.
So like there have been multiple attempts at पहले design दिखाओ, फिर like MOU बनाओ, फिर like military consultation and all the things. So back when Trump was there, this deal was basically underway, but
Okay.
the Air Force had some problems, and the government also thought that it was a little overpriced, so that didn't come off, right? But the deals were on. This is now happening in 2023, right? So the thing is that when it comes to bilateral deals and trades that way, I think either government, doesn't matter which party is in power, it is the government that is doing those deals, and essentially it is also like import export, and like a lot of
Right.
piche ka deals also happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So in good faith it makes sense to also continue those deals, not like the government ka party has changed so हमने वो deal cancel कर दिया because
Right.
उन्होंने किया था
Hmm.
types,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
That usually doesn't happen because it's also
Okay.
like a foreign policy thing, right? So you don't have to, no party wants to give out the image that we are an unreliable partner, because this would imply that we become an unreliable partner, which nobody
Yeah.
wants. So yeah.
Which,
Vimo, any
I
thoughts?
mean, yeah, I mean, the unreliable partner part, it seems like Trump did not have any problem breaking with the Paris Accord or other things, and a lot of things that the previous government had done. So I guess to a certain extent, it will also depend on who the next person to come is and how unhinged he is. If someone like Trump comes along, the deals might actually be in jeopardy. Although I don't think that will happen, because regardless of whether Democrats have been in power or Republicans, India US deals have kind of been on the same track. They've been on
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
slightly upward slope.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And
My
also the
question,
larger go
huh?
on, Vimo.
No, my
Question,
question
please.
was about something else. You were about to answer something.
No, the issue here also is, if you look at the larger picture, right, international affairs wise. So Russia Ukraine war is happening,
Yeah,
and our around 80% of our weapons and defense equipment used to come from Russia,
Yeah.
which has gone down a little bit, and the US has noticed that, so they want to fill the void. So US
Hmm.
was our third largest weapon supplier right now, right? So Russia first, second was France, especially after the Rafale deal, etc. And
Yeah.
the third was US. So what
Hmm.
US thought is that if Russia is giving us weapons and essentially we are having this ties with Russia now, they will have problems in Ukraine. So in a
Hmm.
way, they are taking away Russia's leverage and taking it to themselves on us, right? So they are also very aware of the regional realities, if you want to put it that way. So China has made big investments in Pakistan and Sri Lanka. These are both countries that are in the shitter financially, right? So then
Hmm.
this is like a desperate situation mein paisa aa raha hai type for those countries, so they are completely dependent on China, right? Also China has already supplied similar drones which they have developed to Pakistan, right? I have written the name somewhere of these drones also. Wing Lung 2 are what the drones are called.
Hmm.
And they're
Okay.
similar to Predator drones, they're armed drones, right?
Mm.
They have given to Pakistan. So in a way, this was a right moment for India to be like, "Arey shit, we need drones as well." And
Right.
right.
Yeah.
But till now, IF had two drones which were on lease, which were unarmed surveillance drones, and they were deployed on the Indo-Pacific region. Now that's significant because the Americans also want like a big sort of influence on the Indo-Pacific region because the Chinese have been trying to take over the sea. Trade routes are getting disrupted. There's always a threat for that. So in a way, they're trying to use India as a cushion between, like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, China, also the
Hmm.
Indo-Pacific region. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I just remembered something. This is slightly disconnected, but you remember there were these random balloons that were being noticed in the sky in the
Yes.
US.
Yeah, yeah.
Were they also like we never found out what they were, right?
They
Was it ever
shot them
declared?
down, and apparently they said that they were Chinese
Spy
runaway
balloons.
balloons. They
Ah,
were
okay.
runaway balloons, apparently. I don't know.
Like,
Okay.
how does a balloon get from China to America? Just
Runs
floating
away.
around.
It ran away.
Runs away.
But Vimo, you had a question.
Yeah, it was kind of sort of about China, but Meghnad
Okay.
already spoke about it. But
Okay.
the other thing I wanted to know about was that this consulate in Seattle,
Hmm.
is it like, I may be talking about something I don't know at all, but is it common practice for consulates to be in places other than Washington, D.C.?
So it's the same, right? So like in India, US has multiple consulates in different cities. Like
Okay,
I
okay.
think Germany also has like Delhi and Bombay, and if I'm not wrong, there's one in Bangalore as well. Um,
Okay.
in so US has a few consulates. I think in Bombay, in Delhi for sure, Calcutta, I think. Again,
Okay.
multiple places, multiple cities where people can go and get their visas. Essentially,
Hmm.
that's the
Okay.
idea. The main embassy, though, is in
Hmm.
Delhi. So
It's only
embassy
in,
is
yeah.
different from consulate.
Got
So
it. Got it.
embassy
Got
will
Got
it.
it.
be
Huh. So these consulates don't need to have like an ambassador present.
no, not
I,
really. So I mean, the
okay.
ambassador is the single ambassador who is in the embassy,
Got it.
but I
Yeah. Yeah.
think the consulates are run under the ambassador, if you want to
Yeah.
put it
Hmm.
like
So
like
I know for a
satellite
fact.
embassies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the reason I know is because and this will happen very soon. In Bombay, I think also there is a consulate, if I'm not wrong.
Yes,
Um,
Nariman Point.
which on every 4th of July they have a cultural program for
Okay.
which they hire singers and comedians who can do English stuff, right? And
Oh.
it's a big payday for these musicians and comedians,
Uh-huh.
so they always look forward to it. So that's how I know. They literally like stitch suits which are red, white, and blue with stars and stripes and everything.
Wow. Oh,
Have you
dude.
ever
Yeah,
performed at this?
it's a whole thing. Sorry.
Have you ever performed at one of
No, I
these?
have not. But so someone of my level will not be invited because I'm not like one of the big guys. But I was gonna say they might invite Veer Das, but maybe not after the whole two Indias thing.
No, no, I think that's washed over. I think that's
Yeah.
at least a little
Yeah,
bit in the past. These things don't last. At least
but
with
that's
respect
the
to someone
level
like
of
Veerdas, it won't last. Yeah.
they basically invite people who can sell out auditoriums and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also,
Yeah.
as the like 2024 election approaches, you will notice there's a distinct lowering of the volume as far as the troll machine is concerned. It will
Yeah.
be really loud bursts, but they won't last very long.
Hmm.
until the election. After the election, it might go down to being status quo as far as hatred is concerned. But right now, there will be massive blows that will probably won't they won't end up making much of a dent. So
Right.
yeah, until then, it's kind of going to be not chill but chiller.
Yeah.
Chiller.
Did you
In,
guys see the thing where I think it was Zubair who tweeted that there were people who were sent from India to US to cheer
yeah.
for Modi ji?
Yeah, let's get into the drama, guys. Let's get into the
Sure.
drama. I love it. Of course, there was much drama that happened last week.
Mm,
Um, One was, of course, there were uncles and aunties dancing outside White House, right?
mhm.
There's a very funny video that Ravish Kumar did. It's like copyright की वजह से मैं आपको दिखा नहीं सकता, but हमने एक animation बनाया है, and then there are like 10
वो
figures
कैनवा में बनाया
dancing.
था, चार
Yeah,
पांच लोग ऐसे
exactly.
ऐसे कर रहे थे.
Very fun. That, so that happened. Then there
Right.
was, of course, the mm, खाया क्या है मोदी
Hmm.
जी ने व्हाट इज मोदी जी ईटिंग गाइस
Hmm.
सब वेजिटेरियन था
Hmm.
एंड कुछ तो भी बहुत रैंडम चीजें थी उस पे लाइक दे साउंडेड
Hmm.
वेरी वियर्ड
Hmm.
but that happened. But then
Hmm.
other than that, the funny thing is, so uh, last week someone noticed, sorry, News Laundry noticed
Hmm.
in the nuisance video that a lot of channels have started calling Modi boss.
Yeah,
कि
yeah, yeah.
बॉस
Yeah.
पहुंच गए अमेरिका,
Although
बॉस
I
ने
think that may
दिखाया.
simply
हाँ?
that particular part I think may simply have been like this missive that they get from up above कि ये topic पे करना है.
Hmm.
Maybe that contained the word boss and these guys being the geniuses they are, they just copied and सब लोग boss का कोई variation निकाल रहे थे.
But that's so weird, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's
It's
just
shameful first of all,
yeah,
but also weird.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's bizarre. And oh, also like ANI going around and taking bites of
Yeah.
course, random Indians just there.
Hmm.
The thing is that if you ask an Indian about Modi and India, they're going to say great things. I mean, like that's just
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
default thing, right? I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
what is so surprising about that?
Hmm. Hmm.
Um,
And
one
also the
thing,
fact that a lot of these people can't say no to governmental agencies request to come and dance because उनका बहुत कुछ डिपेंड करता है इन लोगों के ऊपर जो
yeah.
मतलब पासपोर्ट वीजा सब कुछ उसके लिए.
Yeah,
Hmm.
and also the what you said about what Zubair tweeted, right? So there was a
Yeah.
Veena Travels. So some
Hmm.
guy in a yellow T-shirt was also dancing with the uncles, and uska logo visible tha. So people found out that he's from a tour agency called
Hmm.
Veena Travels, and like so basically एक tourist पहुंच गया वहां पे, maybe New York में घूमने. And there was a clip which I saw, which was shared by N, which I think the reporter asked कि अरे what do you do? He's like नहीं मैं यहाँ पे घूमने आया था. In Times Square, right? And then he's
Right.
like, "हाँ, Modi ji great hai, whatever, whatever." Which is okay, I guess.
Yeah.
I
But
suppose
guys,
this kind of it's kind of like they create this entire atmosphere of look great grand reception for our Modi ji in
Hmm.
America, and it's more likely to work on people who don't know what Times Square is, and
Yeah.
that
that's
there
true.
is always stuff like that happening at Times Square. So 10 people standing and dancing for a certain thing is
Yeah.
not weird because right next to them there will be 30 people standing and dancing for something else.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just a normal Tuesday at Times
Oh,
Square.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there was this funny clip I saw. I think Sushant Singh, that Blackboard guy, the anchor,
Yeah.
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 he
Yeah.
keeps doing that. Yeah.
Huh.
So he was in Times Square,
Hmm.
and उसके बैकग्राउंड में एक ये था 3D होर्डिंग, राइट? कुछ तो भी
Hmm. Hmm.
पीछे चल
वो
रहा था.
ad को describe
Yeah, he was describing that. ऐसा लगता है कि वो वॉच बाहर आ रहा है, अब अंदर जा रहा है, अब बाहर आ रहा है, अब अंदर. I'm like, क्या कर रहा है आदमी? And then he went into like a grocery store to basically prove a point that अमेरिका में भी महंगाई है.
Hmm.
He was asking people, अच्छा तो बेटा आप एप्पल खरीदते थे तो लास्ट टाइम कितना खरीदा था इतना. एंड शी इज लाइक आई डोंट एग्जैक्टली. देखिए यहाँ पे भी महंगाई है, बताते नहीं है आपको, बट लाइक तो बेसिकली उसने महंगाई के बात की, बट
हाँ. लेकिन
अमेरिका की
अमेरिका की
महंगाई
महंगाई.
And the curious thing
बेसिकली.
is, he went and asked Indians about महंगाई है या नहीं, and he said कि इंडिया में महंगाई नहीं है और अमेरिका में महंगाई है, but he did not ask them if they want to come back.
That's true.
because he
And
knows what the answer is going to be.
yeah, and at one point he encountered some burqa-clad women who were from Pakistan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And
Oh.
then he started telling them कि how bad Pakistan का condition is.
हाँ.
It's like हाँ
वो
आपको
पाकिस्तानियों को
तो
पूछेगा तुम इंडिया
हाँ,
जाओगे या नहीं, पर
हाँ,
इंडियंस
वो
को
लोग
नहीं
शायद
पूछेगा
आ
कि तुम
जाएंगे.
इंडिया जाओगे या नहीं.
that was
Okay,
the coverage of
last.
the Modi visit basically.
Yeah. So last thing before we move on, so I remember seeing two politicians at least. One was Ilhan Omar, who tweeted out that she will not be attending the speech because of the human right
Hmm.
violations in India, and the second was Bernie Sanders, who I don't think he said that he will not attend, but he said that Biden should bring up the
Biden should ask. हाँ.
should ask about the persecution of the minorities. And do you want to touch at all about the press conference thing? Because the only
Yes,
clip I've seen of that is him answering the question about the
yes.
minorities. What did he answer other questions as well?
So there was one question on climate change which nobody gave a shit about because it was from
Okay.
an Indian journalist जिसने पूछा कि climate change के लिए क्या कर रहे हो and gave some random
Right.
answer.
Right.
The other question was asked by this journalist from the US, Washington Post.
Yeah.
She's getting massively trolled by the way
Yeah. Yeah.
because obviously कि कैसे पूछ सकते हो question कैसे पूछ so anyway
It's
so
actually the
like
Wall Street Journal, Meghnad, not the Washington
How
Post.
can you ask
sorry
questions in a
Wall Street
democracy?
Journal yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, Wall Street Journal is what
Yeah.
was
Hmm.
there's a background to this. So, like, Modi ji doesn't give press conferences ever, right?
Right.
Please note
So
this
so what do you
ever.
think was the exception here?
Exactly. So then what
Hmm.
happened is, I think Trump ke time pe when he went, he was like allowed to not take any questions, right? So,
Hmm.
but yahan pe, the White House
Pressure
was
पड़ा होगा.
pushing for him to
Hmm.
take questions, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
Which is a good thing. So I think what happened is that Biden pe jo pressure aa raha tha, they knew that if journalists are to ask questions, they would ask similar questions to him.
Hmm.
Right.
So he
Right.
kind of like, maybe they'll ask the question, sort of fingers crossed, and exactly that happened. Or
Hmm.
maybe they were, like pushing journalists to ask him questions. We
Hmm.
don't know.
Hmm.
Um,
Right.
so the White House this time said that you have to take two questions, two each, right? One from an
Okay.
Indian journalist, one from a US journalist. So the
Hmm.
US journalist asks him, what steps is the Indian government planning to take to improve the rights of Muslims and other religious minorities in India and to uphold
Hmm.
free speech,
Hmm.
right? So should I read the entire answer? It's very
No, just
enjoyable.
give us the gist of it.
No, Abbas, it's full effect. Okay,
Sure,
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
read. Okay. Here's the answer. I'm
Hmm.
actually really surprised. India is indeed a democracy. And as President Biden also mentioned, for both India and America, democracy is in our DNA. Democracy is our spirit. Democracy runs in our veins. We live democracy. And our ancestors have actually put words to this concept. And that is the form of our constitution. Our government has taken basic principles of democracy, and on that basis, our constitution is made, and the
Take
entire
a
country
take a
runs on
shot
that.
every time he says democracy.
I'm sure
Our
somebody can create a
constitution,
parenthetical version of this. Democracy is still alive in India. Bracket में despite our best efforts.
no, but if you notice the two sentences I just said, they're the
Hmm.
same thing. He just said it in
हाँ.
Yeah,
reversed
yeah,
order.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. It
yeah.
sounds like ChatGPT से लिखा है.
Yeah, exactly. Modi GPT. Our our constitution and our government have always proved that democracy can deliver. And when I say deliver, it is regardless of caste, creed, religion, and gender. There is absolutely no space for discrimination. And when you
Hmm.
talk of democracy, if there are no human values and there is no humanity, there is no human rights, then it is not a democracy. When we have accepted democracy, again, anyway, when we have accepted democracy, there is absolutely no space for discrimination.
Hmm.
That's why India believes in moving ahead with everybody we trust and everybody's efforts. These are the foundational principles which we are the basis for how we operate and how we live in our lives.
Hmm.
Yeah. So then,
4 out of 5 for the answer.
this is from
SEO keyword rating.
CNBC. Yeah, so he gave a answer in Hindi. This is the
Haha,
translation from
yeah, yeah.
Translation.
CNBC
हाँ.
TV 18.
Hmm.
If you hear the clip, you can't understand anything because the live
Hmm.
translation is very weird. It's
Hmm.
like,
Hmm.
kya ho raha hai exactly?
Hmm. Hmm.
This is a more, like somewhat
Yeah.
comprehensible version of the same thing. I guess.
Yeah.
So
Maybe the live
that's why.
translator was like, wait, अभी तो ये बोला था, दोबारा बोलो क्या ऐसे?
Yeah.
डेमोक्रेसी कितनी बार बोलूं इसके अंदर? Are there different words for लोकतंत्र?
Yeah.
क्या
And
बोलेगा आदमी?
the amount of times he goes, oh, we are a country and we are nice and we are a democracy and
Democracy.
our
Yeah.
constitution is based
Yeah.
on it
Yeah.
and I'm amazing.
Yeah.
That's like
वो
a flow
ट्रांसलेटर
from
सेंटेंस के बीच में भूल जाता होगा सेंटेंस शुरू कहाँ हुआ था.
exactly.
So he said this, and then I think the next day Himanta Biswas tweeted out the Hussein Obama tweet, and then
Yeah.
that
नहीं,
was covered by
he said this.
the American media.
Did Obama say that thing before Modi's speech or after Modi's speech?
Yes, so like I think
Before,
before
right?
the Modi speech, he Obama gave an
Meghnad freeze हो गया.
interview
Hello?
to a US journalist.
Meghnad, are you there? Okay. Did he say it? He didn't say it in the Hassan Minhaj interview, did he?
No, he said it to
was a
Christian Amanpour.
different.
Sorry, Meghnad, you were stuck for a second. So
Yeah,
just
I'm doing that again. So he did have an interview. Obama had an interview with a US journalist where he was asked about what is the stand
Oh,
that US
yes,
should take about India, and then he answered that he should be asked about human rights violation and free speech issues.
right.
Exactly what Biden wanted. Exactly what
Hmm.
the Democrats who boycotted wanted. And he said that he should be asked. That's what happened.
Yeah,
So
yeah. This was
Himanta
the
Biswas Sarma.
Lily Amanpour, I think her name.
Christian
is.
Christian
Yes.
Amanpour.
Christian
Yeah,
Amanpour.
Krishna
Yeah,
Naman.
yeah. Yeah.
So
You think
Himanta
it was
Biswas
because
Sarma.
Biden called up Obama the previous night? So मैं इसको पूछ नहीं सकता. There's a lot of things on stake. Can you just say this in some interview so that it becomes part of the discourse right now?
लेजिट बोला गया ओबामा सुनना ड्रोन बेचना है मेरे को तेरे को तो पता ही है हम तो कितना ड्रोन बेचा करते थे ना पहले जब मैं वाइस प्रेसिडेंट था इतने बॉम्बिंग किया हमने तो मुझे भी थोड़ा सा बेचने दे एंड तो यू राउंड अबाउट वे से बस बोल दे सो दैट पीपल गेट इंस्टिगेट मैं नहीं बोलने वाला
By the way,
That was
इससे
my
related
Some
एक चीज है. I don't know if you have time for this, but there is
Go
just one more thing I want to add to this,
Yeah.
which is that Obama said this thing. Nirmala Sitharaman said that Obama should not speak about this because he has bombed several Muslim countries.
yeah
And Narendra Modi has received awards from several Muslim countries, right? So she's right. Obama has bombed several Muslim countries, and that criticism stands on its own. However, if awards were a way to counter this, then Obama got the Nobel Prize for Peace.
peace.
yeah that's
Right?
true
Awards are not a response to this.
that's true
Yeah. Actually, as we speak today itself, I think Egypt has given our prime minister the highest civilian honor of their
oh
country.
yes
So
yeah
that also happened.
पता
ओ
नहीं क्या
यार
क्या
खरीदना
समझ-
पड़ा उससे
मैं
मतलब.
इजिप्ट भी था मैं तो भूल ही गया
इजिप्ट भी था.
So I'll wrap this up with one last thing. So do you guys know about this comedian Zarna Garg? She's an Indian woman who has made it big in the US. So she basically dresses up like an Indian auntie, and her content is also about all Indian aunties. So she recently did an Amazon Prime special where she made some jokes about Hindu gods. And she got massively trolled, okay? And like, वही मतलब rape threats, murder threats, everything in her.
The usual.
In the usual. And I think Modi ji did a dinner with all the influential Indians, NRIs and Indians who've made it big in the US. And Zarna Garg was invited to that dinner. So she has clicked a selfie with Modi ji and posted it on her Instagram. He's like, ये लो, तुम सबको चुप करने के लिए मैंने खिंचवा लिया फोटो.
that's great
अभी कुछ मत बोलना.
Every time someone does something like this, मेरे माइंड में आता है पता नहीं कितने पैसे देने पड़े होंगे.
Yeah.
that's true
Like he goes to Egypt, he gets an award, पता नहीं कितने पैसे देने पड़े होंगे. What, she got a picture with him, पता नहीं कितने पैसे देने पड़े होंगे.
I'll tell you कितने पैसे देने पड़े विमो for example स्टेट में अगर आपको यूएस कांग्रेस के सामने भाषण देना है $3 billion ड्रोन खरीदो
Where is this coming from?
$3 billion
Oh, अच्छा, the drone
खरीदे
cost.
ना?
Okay, हाँ हाँ.
I mean वही तो है ना cost I mean what else is there right you know
Okay, cool. Thanks for that, Meghnad. I think we gave a really thorough lowdown of Modi ji's visit in the US. We'll take a quick break at this point. If you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, and like this video. And if you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please rate and review us. We'll take a quick break. When we come back, Vimoh will tell us why Siddaramaiah is being considered an atheist. We'll see you on the other side of this break. And we're back on page 10 with Meghnad and Vimoh. So, Vimoh, you've got some news from down south. Please take it away. Tell us what you have.
Yes, it was like it's the kind of news that someone like me appreciates a lot because not a lot of this stuff happens in public.
Right.
Like we hear leaders talk about religion, leaders talk about pride and hurt sentiments and all, but we
Mm-hmm.
don't often hear stuff from ministers and leaders which has to do with rationality. So this was a breath of fresh air for at least people like me, which has to do with Siddaramaiah. It's a report from Deccan Herald, which I was citing primarily. Siddaramaiah junks Vastu enters office through door facing south. Apparently, in the Vidhan
Mm-hmm.
Sodha of Karnataka, there was a south facing door that remained closed all the time and nobody was using it. And he asked, why is it closed? And they said it's inauspicious for Vastu Shastra related reasons. And he said, open it, I will use it. They opened it, they had their meeting, and he left using that same door. And he's apparently, apparently also said that a healthy mind, clean conscience, and a pro people approach, along with good air and light in the room, was what was needed. So
Hmm.
we don't often get stuff like this, and
Right.
it sends
Mm-hmm.
out a message, right? It sends out a message about how sure you can be religious, I guess, but some things are like in a list of priorities. If you have to have it
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
as a minister or even as a regular old person, some things are more important, and that is common sense, right? If you
Hmm.
have an
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
administrative building where decisions are being made on the basis of data and all, it makes more sense to prioritize that instead of superstitious practices, as in the door is facing that way and we cannot open it.
Right.
Hmm.
Vimo, what did you make of the new parliament building when that was being inaugurated? There was
Was
a
there
lot of
Vastu involved over there?
but there was a lot of religiosity, right? Like we've
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
rarely
yeah.
seen an
See,
administrative building. Yeah.
my thing about the new parliament building was that it was built at a time when we could have done without it. At the peak
Hmm.
of COVID,
Cool.
I believe the amount of money was 200,000 something.
3,200 crore, I think, overall
So
project-wise.
no, there was some revising at that time. Like
Hmm.
initially, it
Hmm.
was announced to be something, and then they said no, no, it is not that. It is this. I'm not,
Mm.
talking about that at all. But it was built at a time when we did not, perhaps we were not perhaps in a good place to afford it. But it was
Hmm.
built anyway because this government doesn't listen to anyone. But the building was made, and then some religious practices were, uh, you know, kind of introduced into the inauguration of it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that I have slightly mixed feelings about this. Not to say that religious sentiments should be followed when inaugurating a democratic institution,
Mm-hmm.
but I believe Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam is inscribed on the old Parliament building or the Rashtrapati
Hmm.
Bhavan also.
Hmm. Hmm.
Yeah.
It,
So it is not as if every government building is free from religious,
Of course. Yeah.
inscriptions and stuff. It was
Mm.
already there. Yeah,
Mm.
sure. These guys make a big show of everything, and
Mm.
I am more concerned about the fact that I'm more concerned about the criticism that some people have given that the history that has been made up about the Sangol is false,
hmm.
Right.
right?
Hmm.
It is, even if you're going to bring religious ritual into something, at least let it be true. I can have a
Hmm.
disagreement about whether religion should be there or not, but i can
Mm.
I'm pretty sure that everyone should have a disagreement about the fact that if you're making up a historical thing, then it should not be based on WhatsApp forwards.
Hmm.
So that is
Hmm.
the main thing. And
Okay.
I suppose there is some utility. When delimitation happens, there is going to be a need for more people, uh, uh, more space for members of parliament to sit. So I suppose there is some utility there also.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also spoke
Nemo.
about this, no, Abbas, like, so when we were talking, covering the new parliament story, so this
Mm-hmm.
point that Vimo just made about delimitation. So
Mm-hmm.
if listeners want, they can go back to that episode and
Sure.
just
Yeah.
get more context on what he said.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Vimo, I wanted to ask you something. So, is it a good idea, do you think, for a politician to actually come out and like oppose like religious practices publicly? Because the classical understanding of politics currently, at least, is that तुम rational नहीं हो सकते. You have to appease either one or the other religion and try to get their votes, right? And somehow
Hmm.
everybody has come to the conclusion that religion is the only way to sort of one of the biggest ways to get votes, right? Which I
Hmm.
feel like is wrong on so many levels. But at the same
I
time,
think it's a
it is
matter of
like,
priority, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
But do
reason
you think?
religion in politics, huh? Sorry.
No, but my question was there, right? Which is like say Siddaramaiah doing something like this, sending out a signal, and this article saying he's now borderline atheist, whatever. Do you think it is
By the way,
actually
that
going to?
leap is like very that escalated quickly, huh? Just because he
Yeah,
decided to
that's
enter.
true.
What is
No,
what
but
is?
I think if I believe, I was just reading some articles. I think Siddaramaiah has actually said on multiple occasions that he's like more or less atheist. Like he has
Hmm.
given many signals before this also. So this is not like the first time he's doing something like this. Again, like people in the comments can tell me more if this is the first instance you saw. But anyway, but my question here was that is it a good idea to give out a signal like this?
See, it's like is treatment for a disease a good idea? The treatment would not be needed if the disease did not exist, right? We
Yeah.
have a problem of toxic religiosity in politics, and the problem with that, it's not even that some politician took part in a religious procession. That I don't have a problem with. My problem is the priority list that this increases, that this
Mm,
encourages, right?
mm,
You have a bunch of things, and a politician's job is to take care of those things. Suddenly, for no reason, religious processions get to the top of it. There are
mm,
schools, there are roads, there are municipal concerns, there are human rights concerns, there are educational concerns, unemployment, a whole host of issues. But for some reason, religion is the only thing that gets talked about. If we did not have that problem, then this solution would not be something that I would be calling a fresh breath of air, right? Or a
that's
breath
true.
of fresh air. Yeah, whatever.
Mm,
But yeah, that's the thing. I think that in an environment that we live in, something like this is definitely worth talking about. If we did not live in that environment, this would be meaningless in any case.
that's true.
I
Yeah.
think there are two things. So one is that like the thing that discourages me is that so even someone like say the Aam Aadmi Party, right? Back in 2013-14, their manifestos would be all about making schools, and
Yeah.
leaders like Atishi were all about education. And then like a decade or so later, they are also dog whistling Rohingya Muslims and this and that,
Mm.
Mm,
right? So it's like even the more quote unquote educated rational people in politics have to toe this line because they're like अरे दूसरा वाला तो इतना धर्म के ऊपर कर रहा है और
Mm.
वो लोग उन लोगों को वोट मिल रहा है वो लोग जीत रहे हैं तो हम
Yeah.
क्यों नहीं करें.
Yeah, it's a
mm.
it's a monster that survives by feeding upon itself.
Yeah,
Yeah,
It's a
exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, it's a like
That,
one person does it, it creates a culture. Like the other, I don't know if you guys have talked about Adi Purush already, but this morning
last
I was
time,
talking
yes.
about.
I was unfortunately not on that episode, but yeah.
Last
Okay,
episode we
uh,
did on Adipurush. Go on, Vimo.
I was talking about how like people are offended that how can you make gods say these dialogues? But these
Hmm.
dialogues have been part of our popular culture for years now. If
Yeah,
you
yeah.
create a culture where people are like माँ बहन बाप तेरा मेरा ये उखाड़ना वगैरह इस टाइप का लैंग्वेज अगर आएगा in
Mhm.
comments and other stuff, then it is only a matter of time when this becomes part of popular culture, and in
Hmm.
mythological movies the gods are going to speak it. So
Hmm.
anyone who's offended at this should only look at them. Like it was not only the dialogue writer who wrote these dialogues; we all wrote it by
Yeah.
our collective participation in this culture of hatred.
Yeah. And also, like, I genuinely didn't have a problem with that dialogue because I was like, huh, hoga, bola hoga. I mean, who knows, right? He was a fellow from the jungles. He had his own, like, lexicon to speak and
No,
whatever.
my position is always that if if a mythological text is based on at least a few facts, then those facts don't matter because those times have long gone. All that matters right now is how we remember them. Right?
Hmm.
A historical figure may be a terrible person, but do we like them because we think they're a terrible person? No, we like them because we think they were a good person. So it's
Hmm.
all about depictions. And in the animated Ramayana, one of the most touching scenes was when Kumbhakarna comes out. Hanuman hands Kumbhakarna his sons who are dead
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
says, "This is proper practice." That
Right,
kind of
right.
respect that people associate with that character when they hear him say that dialogue written by Manoj Shukla, rather, then what is going to happen to them? This is what I have grown up hearing about this person, and now this person is saying this shit, which I
Yeah.
hear from internet trolls.
Yeah. The list of priorities, Vimo. Can we talk about that a little bit? So, like, I mean, you said
Ah,
that on the list of priorities, people things should be more, governance should be on like the top.
yeah.
So, Abbas, what I thought was that because we are doing this story, we can just spend some time trying to figure out what Congress is doing in Karnataka in general.
Okay.
They had five main promises, which was what I'll do is I'll run through them quickly and give you the status of them. Right.
Sure. Hmm.
Right. So there was the Gruha Jyoti Yojana, which
Hmm.
was 200 units of free power
Hmm.
to all households. Right.
Hmm.
So as of June 25th, 51 lakh consumers have registered for the scheme. Right.
Hmm.
And it has already like been started
Hmm.
in places. Gruha Lakshmi. This is 2,000 monthly assistance to women head of every family. Now, Gruha Lakshmi scheme has been put on hold for some time
Okay.
because the
Hmm.
website was not good and there were application errors, etc.
Hmm.
So that happened, and then
It's the oldest
they're
story
also,
about government websites.
yeah, they're also like writing software to figure this out
Yeah.
कि how
Yeah.
हो
Yeah.
रहा है,
Hmm.
Yeah.
and app बना रहे. Funnily enough, PWD Minister Satish Jarki Holi, sorry, Satish Jarki Holi, he has claimed that central government hacked into our app, and that is why this has been
Oh.
delayed. But later he
उनका
withdrew
अलग ही
the
चल रहा है.
thing. But essentially it's been put on hold. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Then there is Anna Bhagya, 10
Hmm.
kg rice to free to every member of a BPL household. Right
Hmm.
now in Karnataka, 5 kg rice is given. They
Hmm.
added 5 kg more, and now they are saying 10 kg. This is a big mess. I went down a rabbit hole here a little bit to kya ho raha hai, because Congress has now accused the central government of blocking supply of rice to Karnataka.
Hmm.
Uh,
Hmm. The FCI
so
thing, yeah.
yeah, so FCI has basically refused to give them rice. What the ministers are saying is that uh, 300 lakh ton has been allocated to other schemes. This is the union government telling the Karnataka government. So they can't give more rice to Karnataka than already have.
Hmm.
One interesting fact I found: between January 1st, 2023 and May 24th, 2023, BJP state government in Karnataka alone lifted more than 95% of the entirety of the rice procured by all state governments. So during that time, the amount of
Hmm.
rice they were procuring was so big, and that was given at a rate of 3,500 rupees per quintal, right? Which was said to be cheaper than other market prices, which
Hmm.
is always the case with government procurement.
Hmm.
But at the same time, now after the Congress government has come, apparently the government Congress government has been saying, Karnataka government, that they have just cut their supply.
Hmm.
So now they can't execute this scheme properly. So now what the government is doing is they're going to private players and saying, yeah, we will procure from you at a lower price. So then
Hmm.
that kind of disrupts the entire, state procurement system that
Right.
central and state government do, right? So
Hmm.
which is very interesting to watch. um
How is
okay,
this going
so
to affect the
yeah.
general way of functioning of the disruption that you mentioned just now?
Hmm.
In what way is this going to be disruptive?
So what happens is, whenever there is like excess crop which is unsold in the open market, the
Hmm.
farmers sell it to the government, right? So the
Hmm.
government buys it at MSP, right, or
Hmm.
like a agreed to price. So that depends on state to state, right? Now that rice or whatever produce has been procured by the state government is used as welfare mostly, right? So which is all these 80 crore people we are feeding with ration, or like even this scheme, BPL scheme, 5 kg rice, right? That is where the rice is, that is where the produce is used then, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
And a bunch of it is exported as well. So what happens is that if now the state government used to procure from the central government to give it out for their welfare schemes, and if the central government is not giving it, they are going to procure it from private players,
Hmm.
right? So essentially what is happening is that the open market mein jo rice bikega, that will increase, which will reduce
Hmm.
the government supply anyway,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
So then in a way it's like a roundabout way of doing the same thing. So but it is kind of disrupting the whole thing about pricing, etc. So
Hmm.
instead of getting maybe cheaper prices, they will have like a little more, like have to spend a little more than what the government is giving.
Hmm.
But at the same time, that is a big amount when it comes to a state budget. So
Yeah.
it's a very complex thing if you think about it, but it's fascinating that way.
Well,
Does that make sense?
the question that the question that comes to my mind is, even if they subsidize it, to what extent are they going to be able to successfully subsidize it?
That's also true. Like the supply of the grain, sorry, the rice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if you want to look at it this way, when the government procures it uh, for welfare schemes, it is already at a subsidized price because it's the lowest price that the
Yeah.
farmer, like when MSP, minimum support price, right?
Hmm.
So farmer ka production cost plus a little more is what the government is aiming for when they're procuring this
Hmm.
because it didn't sell in the open market.
Mm-hmm.
Now on top of it, if you're also subsidizing more using like the state budget, which I don't think most states do right now because they're just giving it for free. So that kind of becomes a moot point there.
Hmm.
Okay, so two more schemes. Sorry,
Yeah,
I'll just
yeah, yeah.
finish quickly.
Ah.
Uh, Yuva Nidhi scheme, which is diploma holders will get an allowance
Oh
of
yeah,
1,500 per month,
yeah, yeah.
and graduates will get 3,000 per month for 2 years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now the thing is, ये tricky hai.
Mm.
Like when it first was announced, I was like, बस ये like you have to figure out how to figure out कौन
Yeah,
employed है कौन unemployed है.
yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very murky territory.
Mm.
2 years के लिए if you're giving this, so now they're saying that Kannadigas are the only ones who will get this. So there are a lot of
Okay.
migrants who are working in
Hmm.
or students उनको कुछ नहीं मिलने वाला
Right.
है. So now the demand is that this should be expanded to all unemployed youth between 18 to 26 years of age.
Mm-hmm.
Again इसका अभी तक application खुल गया है but like कुछ हुआ नहीं है इसका.
Okay.
Okay, the last one, which is I feel like the best one that is working other than the electricity one, is the Shakti scheme, which is free bus rides for all women in the state.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So there's a report from June 21st which said that in 9 days, 4.2 crore women have availed the bus ride service. Now, when you say this, it's just like 4.2 crore. What does that even mean? So I did some calculations. If you take 9 days of the scheme, so which means that around 47 lakh women are taking the bus
Mm-hmm.
like every day. If you look at the total female population in the state, it's about 3.01 crore. So overall, 15% of all women in Karnataka are currently availing this
Availing the
service,
scheme.
which I think
Right.
is huge when you
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
about it, right?
हाँ, पर जा कहाँ रहे वो लोग?
I mean, commute, daily commute, Vimo.
What if they're all actually going on a single journey?
Arey, this happened in Delhi, right? Do you remember? This happened in Delhi when they started a free bus scheme. They found
हाँ.
a few women who were taking joyrides. Basically, they were like, "नहीं बस में चढ़ के अच्छा लगता है हम सब्जी काटते हैं." Like बस में बैठ के. Great. I mean, ठीक है, it's fine. I mean,
Why
it's
not?
a great
Sure.
thing. Yeah, why not?
But I remember when the scheme was launched officially, the picture that came next day in the newspaper was Siddaramaiah and one more minister were sitting on the seats and women were standing behind. So they were like, oh, this is counterproductive.
Somebody should have added a speech bubble or something. इसीलिए चढ़ी थी बस पे.
Okay, before we wrap up, Vima, I just have one last thing to ask you. So, this same government, the day they came into power, they sprinkled Gaumutra in the premises to purify the premises from the last
Oh,
government.
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if you know
yeah.
this.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
Did
there
they?
is
Was it
also
Gomutra or was it Ganga Jal? I don't
Ganga Jal.
remember.
was it Gangajal? Okay, maybe I misread it. But
Yeah.
do you have any I won't say tips, but any suggestions to how people can bring more rationality and scientific temper when it comes to politicians or leaders? Or is there any leader you have right now who you think is doing that?
Is there any leader is there any political
Emphasizing
leader
on
in India who's being
emphasizing on
rationalist?
scientific temper and rationality.
No one comes to mind, honestly, but I'm sure there are people. Like if you talk about what's his name, Manoj Jha.
Manoj
Right.
Jha.
Yeah. Yeah.
Manoj
I would
Jha
The
also
is
say
quite
CDM.
rational. Is of a
Yeah.
quite
I would
rational
also
bent of mind.
say, yeah, go on. Sorry, you complete then.
No. I honestly can't think of anyone else. Go on.
PTR, finance used to be finance minister, now IT minister of Tamil Nadu. Uh,
Okay.
then I would say Jairam Ramesh. is one of
Okay.
those people who's like generally scientific temperament wise. I think he's very rational. Even
Okay.
his statements actually show you
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
that. I would say Rajiv Gowda of the Congress.
Hmm.
He's also like one of those people I would count. There is Kavita KK of I think Telangana, who I
Mm-hmm.
think also is Supriya Sule. I
Yeah.
would say
Yeah.
Supriya
is
Sule,
also
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
There is also Kanimori.
Kanimuri, yeah.
She's an
Yeah.
openly
So
atheist person, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think the DMK is, I think, the only party
Hmm.
that comes to
Like
my mind
Dravidian
whose leaders.
politics in general
Yeah.
tends to be somewhat
I mean,
atheistic, which is an
Kerala,
Atheistic.
amazing
Yeah.
thing, I
Yeah.
think, yeah.
Kerala may heavily, I would say there is a tendency for more rationality as well. I mean, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Pinnare
That is also
Vijayan
the
and all
reason
the
why
people.
every commenter on an atheist video is saying, haha, you're an atheist, you're a communist. And you're like,
Yeah.
no, I'm an atheist. Huh? So what's the difference? Because they all seen communist, like, atheist from Kerala only.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Another name I would throw in is Derek O'Brien. Also, like, comes off as a bit of a rationalist that way. Does not
Uh,
comment on religious issues per se.
See, that's the
yeah.
Another,
thing.
Correct.
You
yeah,
will find people who are largely irreligious, but
hmm,
if you look at their speeches etc, नहीं हमको पंगा नहीं लेना है उस टाइप के
yeah,
जोन में है
Yeah.
सब. So there is no one who will say no, I don't believe in that. Kadimori का जो speech था, जो interview था, where she says that I'm an atheist, I don't believe in God, literally
Mm-hmm.
openly,
Mm-hmm.
that I have not seen from anyone else.
Correct. Yeah.
hmm, hmm.
And I would say Derek O'Brien definitely worships his party leader.
Yes,
So yeah.
nice one.
Okay, cool. We'll take a quick break at this point, and before we go into a break, actually, you can catch Vimoh on an episode of ELI 10 that he was on. Meghnad, what was that episode about?
It was what is atheism,
Oh, there you go.
and we argued a lot about this, and so you can say that.
Yeah.
And
So if you
also, like,
want,
you should check
yeah.
out his streams where I also like have been there a few times.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Whenever I feel like I need to talk and vent, I go to Vimo's streams. And he's nice enough to just be like, hey, aja, come, we'll talk about whatever you want. I'm very happy about that. So please do check out his streams
Yeah.
also.
Please do that. All right, we'll take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll wrap it up with what's happening in Russia. We'll see you on the other side of this break.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcasts Network. On Cock and Bull, Cyrus, Puneet and Noel discuss about naked NYC comedy shows and the massive US accounting error in sending aid to Ukraine. On Explain Like I'm 10, Meghnad is joined by comedians Gaurav Pawar and Noel Cordero. They explore what is universal basic income and its potential to transform society. And on page 10, Nikhil, Meghnad and Karan talk about the recently released movie Adi Purush, the ongoing violence in Manipur and the Reddit blackout. So folks, if you like our show, spread the word, tell your friends and don't forget to rate and review them wherever you're listening to them. Follow us on social media. We are IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram and LinkedIn. You'll also find all of our shows on youtube.com/IVM Podcasts.
And we're back on page 10. We've already heard from Meghnad and Vimoh, and we're going to wrap it up with what I'm covering this week, which is the developments in Russia. There was a mutiny, and then there was not a mutiny. All of this in 2 days. So, okay, I'm going to try and break this down to as simply as I can. So, the person who you need to know here is a man called Yevgeny Prigozhin. I hope I'm pronouncing
Yeah.
it correctly.
Prigozhin. Yeah.
Prigozhin, who heads a paramilitary group called the Wagner Group. If ever there was a domineering paramilitary group name, it was the Wagner Group.
Wagner. Yeah. I
Wagner,
love
The
it.
yes.
only group with its own background music.
So essentially, the Wagner Group is this paramilitary force which is aiding, or which was aiding, the Russian military in their war against Ukraine. But what happened was, in the last week or so, Prigozhin became a rebel and accused a lot of ministers of the Russian administration of corruption. And he said that because of their sort of irresponsibility, we are losing our men in Ukraine. So there was a sort of a coup attempt, or a mini coup, that Prigozhin sort of engineered. And the members of the Wagner Group essentially retreated from Ukraine, came back into Russia and took hold of a few military bases. One of them was Rostov, the most impactful one. And he essentially gave an ultimatum to Vladimir Putin, who then on 24th of June came on the on TV and basically sort of admitted to this mutiny happening. And he said whoever is doing this will be punished very harshly. But then the very next day, the Wagner group retreated from the military bases that they had taken over. And while all of this was happening, the Kremlin was like a lot of security was put up at the
Yeah.
Kremlin. And Vladimir Putin, after that address to the nation, has essentially gone quiet and has not been seen in public. So the next day, Prigozhin has said that a deal has been struck and essentially the mutiny is off. And there were visuals seen of him along with the Wagner group leaving and a lot of people cheering the Wagner group's name and going and shaking Prigozhin's hand as he was leaving Rostov. And there were also footage of Prigozhin sitting with some of the defense ministers of Russia and essentially lecturing them about how, because of their irresponsibility, he was losing men in Ukraine. So a little bit of history about the Wagner group or the Wagner paramilitary force. They were formed in 2014 in Crimea, and they have sort of helped out. By the way, an interesting thing about the Wagner group is they also have a digital wing, which apparently was responsible for the 2016 Trump election win. So that's also an element of that. And they have been in, their force has been used in Libya, in parts of Africa. So they have been known to sort of, help out the Russian government. So, guys, is this the implosion of Russia that is finally taking place? Putin is not as invincible as he thought he was. Is this how the
there is
war?
talk of Wagner Group being Nazi.
So
Oh, really?
that is, I think. So the thing is, this Wagner group is a mercenary group. I wouldn't say it's a
Yes.
paramilitary group. I would say it's a
Yeah.
mercenary group. And so I've been following this. It's very fun. Let's admit it, right? And also when white people talk about, especially Americans, when they talk about war, it sounds like a Hollywood blockbuster,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like whenever, even like in spaces, right? They're like, yeah, Prigozhin, whatever, and not in like dramatic terms. They will just talk
Yeah.
about it like in a normal way.
Hmm.
Where like, oh, this Prigozhin, what he did? He played 5D chess. He's basically like trying to get rid of the second rung of the Russian defense,
Yeah.
and maybe this was like a Putin thing, where Putin told him to do this because he wants to blame the loss of war on someone, which is their second
Yeah.
tier people.
This is something we encounter in India also. Like somebody was saying BJP lost in Karnataka. What if they wanted to lose in Karnataka? So
Exactly,
that something
exactly.
else would happen. They wanted to trip and fall and break their nose in order to
Yeah,
get sympathy. Like there's this fetishization of strategy that
Yeah,
yeah,
happens
yeah,
across the board, which is
yeah.
really annoying about Twitter and online spaces.
yeah. And
I
also
forgot
like
to mention. Yeah, go
Zelensky
ahead.
sort of like fanned this also a little bit. Zelensky also, he gives a nightly address, right? So
Right.
wahan pe bhi he was like, oh, this evil man, we always knew he was evil, and now he's turning around and going and attacking your people. But we think that he's like Putin ka aadmi. So like he also like thoda sa उसने भी
Hmm.
misinformation डाल दिया उसमें शायद.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
mean
yeah.
वहां पे तो information warfare भी हो रहा है.
चल ही रहा है, बहुत
यूक्रेन को
टाइम
तो
चल रहा है.
चाहिए ही, right? So but the other thing is, which is very interesting. So they traveled around 200 miles in 24 hours towards Moscow.
Yeah.
So they took over Rostov, and then they
Yeah.
started going towards Moscow with like some 50,000 troops, is what I
So,
read.
so there is a difference of like reporting here. Some say 25,000, some say 30,000, some say 50,000. So it's not exactly
Yeah,
known how
yeah.
many people they're
So
talking about.
I know his core group, which is the elite force, which is the Wagner group, is like some 10,000, 8 to 10,000 people.
Also, apparently, they wear the same uniforms as the Russian military, so it's it's
Yes.
difficult to tell them apart as to
And
who
they
is who.
spray painted a red Z on their vehicles basically after this whole thing happened to differentiate themselves.
Oh,
Why? What is
Yeah.
this?
yeah.
I don't understand why exactly. Like that made no
Are
sense.
they
It's like,
trying to
won't
say
you
that
want
we are
to?
friends of Zelensky or something? Like, what is the Z?
Because
Z
Prigozhin का
news?
Z तो बहुत बाद में आ रहा है.
But this fellow, what's his name? Prigozhin, right?
Prigozhin, yeah.
Uh,
So I was reading up on him. Did you know he was Putin's chef?
Yeah, the Putin
I've heard.
chef.
Like,
Somebody,
yeah,
I think somebody pointed a joke on Instagram saying Putin is losing to a comedian and a chef.
And a
and a
chef.
chef. Yeah, exactly. But to answer your question, Abbas, I don't think
Yeah.
like much is happening. I mean,
But is this like the chink in the armor for Putin, that he was projecting himself as this very strong leader? And I know he has taken a hit because the war did not go as he planned. But now this is like the official sort of bursting of his bubble. कि हाँ अब तो यार तेरे खुद के घर में ही तू नहीं संभाल पा रहा है.
I'm not sure because
Okay.
like one of the biggest chink in his armor is his health, I think, because there
Okay.
are enough reports on his deteriorating health.
Right.
And one of the reasons why people were saying he's not coming on TV much is because of his health. So
Right.
he did come, like when, as you said, like
24th.
on
Huh.
Sunday night
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
and he said whatever he had to
Addressed.
say.
Huh.
But after that he's again disappeared. So
Yeah.
he's not
Yeah.
been making public appearances, public speeches, nothing.
Hmm.
So I don't know, man. Like it's Russia. You never know
Do you think
what
that's
they
why
are
the
up to.
mutiny kind of disappeared overnight? These guys went over to him, yeah, we're gonna kill you, and he's like, यार मेरी तबीयत खराब है, and okay, ठीक है, हम लोग वापस बाद में वापस आते हैं.
But I was
Uh,
listening to the BBC podcast, and they were speaking to a Ukrainian army official, okay?
हाँ.
And the Ukrainian army official, like, props to him, is going through war or whatever. But he's like, so Putin, tell us that the second most powerful, he has the second most powerful army in the world. He does not even have second most powerful army in Russia. like, ये आदमी जंग लड़ रहा है, फिर भी इसको जोक मारना.
No, but you know, the interesting thing that I read was this Wagner group has been at the front lines in the
Yeah,
Ukraine war, and
Yeah,
a
yeah.
lot of damage to like massive cities in Ukraine have been caused by this group.
Right.
So Zelensky has always been talking about this guy and saying that this guy is evil, like he doesn't give a shit, he's a mercenary,
Yeah,
all the
yeah,
thing,
yeah.
which is true. But then like when the
Right.
things turn on Russia, सबकी फटी पड़ी थी, वो तो पता था.
Yeah.
Like I mean,
Yeah.
like the entire town was empty, Moscow was closed down, and so basically everybody was very worried.
Yeah,
And
yeah. I think
again,
26th, the day we are recording, was declared as a non-working day also, because they were people were asked to stay indoors and all of that. Yeah.
but they've gone back to their bases now, I think.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
Wagner group.
The Wagner
I don't
group,
know how they will be able to trust this group anymore, right? I mean, how will they
That's what
actually
I
work
don't.
with the military now?
I think it's far from over. I think there's going to be more developments here. Vimoh,
Yeah,
what do
there's
you
going to be
think?
more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But as far as the propaganda war is concerned, there was this thing underlying this entire thing was that there was a Nazi presence in Ukraine,
Yeah.
and that Putin was
Yeah.
not a Nazi. And then now
Correct.
these guys turn up, and turns out that they're kind of, they hired people with Nazi tattoos and something. So there is a lot of Nazi in this mix, which prevents
Correct.
people, or at least some people, at least people like me, from making any kind of
So
judgment about अबे मतलब अच्छाई की side पे कौन है.
So there was this thread I was reading, which again, guys, please take it with a pinch of salt. This is like fog of war conditions, right? So a
Right.
lot of information is just not coming out. Like some people are saying, "Oh, Kremlin में तहलका मच गया था when this happened and people were running helter skelter." वो पूरा होता रहता है. I mean, like कहाँ से कौन सा information? So one very interesting theory I read, theory बोलते हैं उसको, is that so as I said, like, you know, that it's very confusing how big the size of this Wagner group is, which is 25 to 50
Yeah,
k
correct.
के आसपास. 10,000 is the main elite group, which is like the core,
Core.
right? What happened is that this guy took a lot of convicts
Okay.
from jails and made them a part of the Wagner group.
Yeah, yeah.
And what people are saying is that over the last few years, this Putin has been going on a war front to arrest people as Nazis, just like
Okay.
you know, like, and because that is his entire reason for the war on Ukraine,
On
right?
Ukraine,
Which is
correct.
like
Denazification,
they're Nazis.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
denazification. So he's been like just random accusation and putting them in. Now
Hmm.
that he wants people in the war, he's like letting them join the Wagner group. So when we are saying that, when people are saying that Wagner group has a lot of Nazis, it's
Hmm.
actually people who have been declared by Russia as Nazis who are a part of
Right.
this. So
Right.
which is so bizarre. It's like
In fact, there was one report which I just kind of went through again, where Wagner Group's head is saying that the Kremlin is wrong to say that Ukrainians are Nazis. Which makes like, भाई वो
तू
किसकी
मेरी
साइड पे है?
तरफ है
तू
क्या
पहले
उसकी तरफ
डिसाइड कर
है?
ले. I'm sure Nazis are like, there are Nazis there who are like, who am I?
Nazi existential crisis.
Yeah. um, okay, yeah, that was about Russia. Anything else you guys want to add before we wrap up?
The first story that we covered, like the Russia Ukraine thing that is happening,
Yeah,
उसमें
yeah, yeah.
India का role भी थोड़ा सा important है because
Hmm.
like we have actually played a great game internationally. I mean, I know Jaishankar just says whatever थोड़ा
He's
aggressive
asked to
होके
say.
बोलता रहता है, but
Yeah.
foreign policy wise, we have just opened up like a bunch of fronts now, which I think is nice. It's like proactive. I haven't seen us getting much proactive. Like we are just like like we're just like हाँ हम हैं existing, but now we are actually saying कि हाँ हम रशिया के साथ भी अलग डील करेंगे, हम यूएस के साथ भी अलग डील करेंगे, चाइना के साथ हम ट्रेड में कुछ कर लेंगे, बट मिलिट्री में विल बी अग्रेसिव, ऑस्ट्रेलिया के साथ कुछ कर. So it's interesting what we are doing. It might seem confusing, but at the same time I think we are now very trade first, or like as a country.
Right.
डिफेंस एंड ट्रेड फर्स्ट, वेयर अगर तुम हमको वेपन दे रहे हो तो हम अलाइ करेंगे, या फिर हम हमारे साथ ट्रेड कर रहे हो तो हम अलाइ करेंगे. So there is an ELI 10 episode on how can India become a superpower, and we recorded this when the Russian war was happening. I mean, I
Right.
think an year into it or something. So you will understand what I'm saying when you listen to it. It's a very fascinating conversation.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Vimo, anything you want to say before we wrap up this episode?
No, not really.
By the way, when we were discussing the Predator drones, you guys know the joke that Obama made about the drones, right? The attack drones.
No.
The Iron Man joke.
No. So, but I think this was at the same event. It was the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And, there is this thing, the president also cracks a few jokes before calling the comedian. So, I think his daughters were in attendance. And Obama said, so Sasha tells me that she's very fond of the Jonas Brothers who are here. And then he says, Jonas Brothers, just want to tell you, thousands of attack drones are at the tip of my finger. That's all he said. So it got a laugh there, but then people were like, oh, you're joking about stealthily killing people.
Yeah.
So, yeah. All right. Thank you for listening and watching us till the very end. All those who have stuck by us so far. Thank you for joining us, Vimo. Where can people find you on social media? Anything you want to plug, please go ahead.
I actually don't want to plug my social media because I've left Twitter. But you can find me
yeah.
on YouTube by just going to youtube.com/@Vimoh, Vimoh. That's my YouTube channel.
Is YouTube the only social media site that you are on right now?
I'm on
Instagram.
Instagram also, but I don't know when that's going to get banned or deleted, because apparently using the word Brahmanism is hate speech.
Okay. All right.
I did a reel on secularism, and apparently people have been reporting it as hate speech.
So there is an entire group which is proper, either clueless liberal or proper what's the word, रायता के अलावा दूसरा वाला क्या था? Trads, yeah. There's an entire trad reporting group which is going around reporting everything that has got to do with anything related to Hindutva.
Raita mein khana soch raha hu. It's like, why is Vimo suddenly talking about food?
Oh, plugging another episode, Trads versus Raita. What
there
is
you
Trads
go.
versus Raita?
Yes.
ELI 10. So,
By the way, I think jispe Kajol was the guest, and I think that tweet was by Kajol, the chef and this thing.
Yeah. It was
chef
by
and comedian.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything is connected, guys. Everything is connected to ELI 10. Meghnad, anything you want to plug before we wrap up?
Please listen to ELI 10. We did an episode on universal basic income.
Okay.
So, like we had announced last time in the AMA that we are changing the format a little bit. We are going to do some more internal episodes where we are breaking down policies and etc. One suggestion was, please talk about the Uniform Civil Code, which we will do soon. And Vimo, please, I am already inviting you for it. On the Uniform Civil Code, we will do like a nice episode. Please come.
Sure.
Yeah. So yes, we have a guest now. So then, but do listen to that episode. We are going to also launch a new series on ELI 10. It is called the Who Is series. You will find out very soon what that is. We are preparing for it. But yeah, other than that, please follow me on Meghnad on Twitter and Meghnad is on Instagram. Watch my reels.
Cool. And you can follow me on Twitter at Abbas Momin. I'm still there for some reason, even though I've been shadow banned. And you can follow me on Instagram at Abbas Momin 88. And I'd actually like to recommend the science fiction short story that Vimoh has written. Vimoh, I've forgotten the title of it. Would you remind me of it?
Darshan,
Darshan, yes. And where can people find that?
you can find Darshan at instamojo.com/Vimo.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting tale about religiosity in the future. So check it out. I've read it and I really liked it. So thank you for that, Vimo, and thank you
Thanks, man.
everyone who listened to us and watched us today. One last time, please subscribe to the channel, press the bell icon, and share this episode with whoever you think will enjoy it. And if you're listening to us on a podcast platform, please rate and review us. It helps us reach more people. All right, thank you so much. We will see you next week with new topics and a new panel. Till then, bye bye.
IVM.